This is how we start off our shows, okay? We start off on the left side, and we go. Huddle, 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 save, 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 build a, build a, build a, sound money, sound money. Hello, this is Ugly Old Goat here, and I've got another article I'm going to do a read through. But before I start, I want to make sure you all are aware of Tonvei's Financial Summit coming up the first week of August. It's from the 1st to the 6th of August. It's in the Dominican Republic, and it's for high rollers. Basically, if you're, a well-heeled investor or trader, hedge fund, office, family office, it'd be a great event to go to. It's very relaxing. This is the third one I'm going to, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. So check that out. That's at thefinancialsummit.com. All right, let me read this article through real quick. And this one's called The Goal of Sound Money in Banking. And if we have sound money, Bitcoin has no use case. And please, guys, if you read this article, make sure you clap for it. It does, help me a little bit by getting some claps. So I start out with the Immaculate Conception, and of course that's the birth of Bitcoin. And in the beginning, Bitcoin was worthless, and it stayed that way for about 16 months. The first block was mined on January 3rd, 2009, and the first recorded transaction occurred 16 months later, on May 22nd, 2010. Bitcoin required a great deal of time and nurturing before it took its first steps. And these 2 days are now celebrated in the Bitcoin culture. It's Bitcoin's birthday and Bitcoin Pizza Day. All right, and there's a picture, that's the first block mined, and there's a picture of the pizza, and the $41 worth of pizza was sold for 10,000 Bitcoin, worth about $200 million today. Now, this is why Bitcoin and Bitcoin alone is the blockchain, because it's one of a kind. There will be no other. No other chain can be longer or more secure using proof of work. And so Bitcoin, it has a fixed amount that's going to be mined, so it's a static and it's a closed circular system. It's hard money, really hard money. And while there's great hope for a new generation with Bitcoin due to it being the longest chain secured through proof of work, with a limited fixed supply, trustless, borderless, and unconfiscatable, all of this is for naught if we forget these qualities to participate in the latest legacy compromise. And that's what we're going through today in these markets. Bitcoin is designed to work well apart from legacy systems. The declaration of Bitcoin as legal tender, and all those underlines, there's links, along with the legacy participation in 2021, changed the fundamental structure and dynamics of the Bitcoin market. And I don't think it's for the better. And these two events at the time were really hailed as bullish for Bitcoin. Everybody was all excited about it, but the popular prognosticators proved wrong. It was bearish, and we soon found out why. And I actually wrote about this in January, that that this was definitely hanging on us. I mean, it wasn't a prediction, it was a warning. But by definition, Bitcoin is tied, if the Bitcoin system is tied to the legacy system, it defeats its primary imputed value, that it cannot be seized, because you have it on, somebody else is holding your Bitcoin. And so, as my good friend Tonvei's put it, Bitcoin is no longer unconfiscatable. Now, what was recognized and what I warned about to be a real danger last January in 22 became known as the liquidation contagion. And there's the article I wrote on how to lose your hodl in one easy lesson, and also an article on the Celsius meltdown that recently happened. So Bitcoin lending occurred without any new wealth backing the loans. All this is done crypto to crypto. The wealth is virtual wealth, joined into and incorporated with the legacy system, thoroughly corrupted by the latest political bailout. And there are some sound banking models out there that they had using BTC as a collateral, and there's a few that practice peer-to-peer lending. But the vast majority suckered the public to borrow against their hodl with, with promised. Borrow against our hodl with promised wealth without work. And life doesn't work that way. So, and I know people personally that did that. They borrowed against their hodl, and they thought it was going to go to $100,000. They could just live off the gain of their Bitcoin, and instead they got liquidated. So this was compounded by the crypto world, DeFi and NFTs, which were also circular closed economies in their own right, with the added juice of money creation through tokenism. Now, this severely affected the unlearned newbies. Hopefully you guys didn't get caught up in any of that, but and see this as I think we're going to start cleaning this stuff out. I think the real problem was within Bitcoin itself. Sound commercial banking on the Bitcoin standard. It's dynamic, open system that accommodates infinite wealth. And guys, that's the difference. If we start lending, you create the wealth first, then you can loan against that. You can actually create commercial paper. It's non-inflationary purchasing media because it's created as the wealth is produced, and then it's withdrawn once the wealth is sold and distributed. Then that money is withdrawn. So it's actually a market regulation on the money supply rather than a decreed money supply. And sound commercial banking on the Bitcoin standard creates non-inflationary, self-liquidating commercial paper representing new wealth offered in the marketplace. Now, this is a quote from Andrea Biancani, and he wrote, "The proper functioning of a commercial banking system is vital for the development of capitalistic economies. Its two primary functions are savings and lending, which revolve around making a profit between the interest rate paid on savings and that charged on the loans. But banks can lend either by drawing from deposits and savings they collected or by creating new money." Now, Harwood posits that the discriminating factors to create new money only when such money goes into productive investments, which is when the money increases the quantity of goods and services in circulation. For example, he gives the example the company builds a plant to manufacture cars. Actually, a better example is as the cars are produced, they put a lien on those cars, they pay the suppliers, pay their workers, and then they can go out and buy cars or whatever else is on the marketplace. I think a plant is probably better financed through a capital investment, and not when this money not when this money finances consumer spending or any non-productive investment. In other words, if you're out and you're buying the car, then you can't create money for that. You actually have to have somebody that's saving and willing to lend you that money. And in the first case, the banker can create new money because this is non-inflationary. In the second case, the purchase shall be rather financed by drawing from savings or deposits because creating new money not offset by increased amount of goods would be inflationary. Now, the need is becoming self-evident with this collapse in the crypto world and the emergence of the Bitcoin standard. Competition in this new venue has opened the door to relearn the lost art of commercial banking for small and large producers alike, but especially the small producer without access to the fiat money standard. Now, herein lies the hope of the Bitcoin standard's emergence. And there's a link to Andrea Biancani's article. First, with sound commercial banking, new wealth is encouraged because low interest and even no interest loans are available to producers that are not available to consumers. Unlike what we are witnessing in the crypto world today, where so-called decentralized finance or DeFi promises wealth through money creation, a sound commercial bank first requires wealth creation. Only then can the money be created because it is secured by this new wealth. And again, I outlined in an earlier article that legal tender, legacy participation in exchanges led to the current Bitcoin liquidity crisis. And while the dangers of the unsound exchanges and DeFi constructs become a diminishing sideshow, the growing inherent dangers come from those within the Bitcoin community who understand Bitcoin but seek to merge it with the legacy system. While no harm is intended, harm was done, and it shows just how much we do have to learn from the lost art of commercial banking. And there's a link there if you want to read Harwood's Lost Art of Commercial Banking. And my article that I refer to, there's a link right there. Now, the danger to Bitcoin comes within its own ranks. Self-proclaimed Bitcoin maximalist Michael Saylor, he actually is lobbying for Bitcoin regulation, while Bitcoin maximalist hater Nick Carter, he considers regulation unavoidable. Now, neither really grasp the idea that money and state should be separated. Or if they do, they only give it a passing glance while promoting their legacy agenda. If you're in the legacy system, you want Bitcoin to work in the legacy system, and here's where we're having our problems today. Now, neither actively suggests that the SEC or the Federal Reserve should be abolished. Now, such thoughts simply don't comport with legacy thinking. Now, the case can be made that just as shitcoiners show their faces to an unsuspecting public, these two yahoos are doing the same on a macro level. Now, is there any substantive difference? Now, there I said it. I call these guys yahoos. Okay, now, I realize calling someone a yahoo is an insult, but ad hominem argument is valid, is invalid unless it meets two criteria. It must be true and it must be relevant. And I think here it is true and it's relevant. And I have every reason to otherwise I like both of these guys. They're both articulate. They're great content creators, but they're kind of locked into the legacy system. But please, Michael and Nick, what regulation is a good thing for Bitcoin? And just who has the SEC ever protected? And there's the article that I wrote where these two guys actually encourage SEC regulation. Now, 2 generations ago, my mentor, E.C. Harwood, wrote The Money Mirage, and he outlined the 3 greatest swindles in the history of mankind, and he defined a swindle as follows. The word swindle is the usual name for obtaining money or property by fraud or deceit. The key elements of a swindle are that money or property has been taken from someone with or without explicit consent, and that the person has been deceived or somehow led to believe his money or property either remains safely in his possession or would be available to him in the future. Now, Harwood went on to identify the 3 greatest swindles of all time. And number 1, hands down, is inflation. Second is Social Security. Now, actually, at the time he wrote this, that was the main entitlement. But now we have so many entitlements, you could just change that to being entitlements. The third one is the Securities Exchange Commission. And he was a victim of Securities Exchange Commission. But you could just put any kind of regulation because the Securities Exchange Commission was created right after the stock market crashed because they were supposed to prevent, save people from losing their money in the stock market. And of course, the SEC swindle remains an active, dynamic swindle emerging in the crypto world. And it's especially relevant to Bitcoin in 2022, as most pundits are seeking government regulation, or at best they're resigned to the idea that it is inevitable. Harwood wrote, the Securities Act of 1933 and subsequent amendments thereto were intended to prevent the repetition of the 1929 to 1932 experience for investors when many of the securities sold earlier proved to be worthless or nearly so. Kind of like what's going on today. New issues are required to be registered, and much detailed information must be provided not only to the Commission, but also to anyone whom the security is offered. Moreover, no offers may be made until registration becomes effective. That is, it has not been rejected or postponed by the Commission. Sellers of new issues are not permitted to represent that the Securities and Exchange Commission has approved or recommended their security. Nevertheless, anyone familiar with what occurs in a broker's office throughout the nation has seen ample evidence that the general public assumes the SEC somehow is safeguarding their investors' interests. If not, why do they exist? Of course, they don't, and that's why they don't need to exist. Any experienced observer of securities markets knows that in most instances during recent years, new issues were rapidly bid up to levels above the offering price, usually at least double, and in many instances to several times the offering price within a few months. This is the classical procedure for pulling in the suckers, just like we have going today. One result is that the initial offering brokers make a killing and the general public pays far more for the original offering price for the stock. Now, the evidence suggests that the SEC intervention in the crypto world will feed a false sense of security, negating hard lessons already learned in this unhampered marketplace. Now, Hard went on to ask the following. Number 1, has the SEC unwittingly, of course, served as the Swindlers Encouragement Commission? 2, did the SEC unintentionally, of course, serve as a Suckers Entrapment Commission by ignoring the rampant manipulation of prices for new issues in the over-the-counter market, thereby inducing confidence where there should have been skepticism? 3, is the whole idea for the SEC basically a mistaken one, in that it seeks to substitute voluminous representation of facts, accounting records, etc., for what I believe is the investor's only practical protection, finding wise and honest men who will safeguard his investment to the best of their ability. That the SEC and the baby SECs in many states has been a wonderful thing for the legal profession, for accountants, and for printers of prospectuses seems indisputable. But the funds, but that the funds of the average investor thus have, but that the funds of the average investor thus have been safeguarded seems open to question. So, like I say, it's kind of just a racket. You've got to get a bunch of lawyers in there, but it's really not doing anything to protect the investors. And if you want to read that article, there's a link there. The point is that any hope of the SEC will provide any investor protection through regulation is severely misplaced. The evidence suggests quite the opposite is true. It is much more likely that the coming SEC regulation will simply add to more rampant swindles in the crypto world by providing a penumbra of legitimacy. With increased regulation, the clearly established trend to incorporate the Bitcoin standard into the legacy system is exacerbated. So long as markets are free, there is great hope for a new generation in Bitcoin due to it being the longest chain secured through proof of work with a limited fixed supply, trustless, borderless, and unconfiscatable. Hodlers are the bank of last resort in the world of free market banking in the Bitcoin standard. And I wrote an article on this, how that works. The de-evolutionary trend, and I do think you're seeing that right now, it's occurring at an exponential rate when compared to the de-evolution of the gold standard. You know, the gold standard evolved organically, and it reached its most advanced levels during the Gilded Age in the late 19th century before it was nationalized and then regulated. And we've had 4 generations where we've gone downhill. We've got this wonderful thing with Bitcoin, and we're kind of the people that should know better are kind of sabotaging it as much as anyone. The gold standard emerged organically in the marketplace, and like Bitcoin. And as Harwood said in an interview with Reason magazine, no economist started it off, though there was never an economist alive who had a wit to think that up. It just evolved because it was obviously necessary, obvious to a banker. He has a gold reserve, he can create more claims against it, and not go broke, provided those claims are covered by an equal value of something else. This, of course, begs the question, will Bitcoin really provide an alternative? Or is it simply a new paradigm granting a brief reprieve that is quickly degenerating into centralized control on the legacy system by those who know or should know better? Again, guys, I understand what's going on. This is just an education just so you can see what's going on. And like I say, right now, I think the biggest problem was within the Bitcoiners themselves. All right, if you like this article, give it a few clicks. There's the Financial Summit. Hey guys, if you want to support my work, we had the Bitcoin Starter Kit, and what you get, let's see, there, you can see the bag right up here. Let's see, here's the bag, and you'll get my 2 books. Now these are both hardback books, How to Put Yourself on the Bitcoin Standard and One Easy Lesson in Equity Trading. And these will both be signed by me. They're hardbacks. You also get the ebook edition. You're going to get the little Bitcoin book. You're going to get Knut Svanholm's book, Sovereignty Through Mathematics. You're going to get Bitcoin Rabbi's book, Bitcoin Money, and you'll get the Bitcoin Standard. Now, all these are gifts. You'll get a Jade wallet, and you're going to get all these things, plus the 2 ebooks, $195 plus shipping, and it's a great bargain. So, like I say, you want to support my work, please go to that link. And we do have an English edition and a Spanish edition. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.